Hello, this is Steve Ramona, your host for Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I want to thank our sponsors, Infone, and with Infone, you can place your business on everybody's cell phone, turn their business into a web app, and with a click of a button, they'll have access to you 24/7. And also Pantheon.fm. Have you ever thought about monetizing and taking your podcast to the next level? Well, Pantheon can do that. Let us show you how. Reach out to Steve Ramona, the host, at infone.co/SR1, and I will go over with you how you can make your podcast really stand out. Let's enjoy the show. Thanks again, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. This is your host, Steve Ramona, and I'm pumped up today because I've just had a conversation with my guest, and it's amazing what he's doing. But you know, the most important thing, he's serving with all the businesses he's run, started, and now working with today. His number one goal is how he can help people. Hey, Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, dude.
Let's jump on that. Why is helping people so important to you?
Well, once you hit a certain point, and it's not that much. I remember when my goal was to make $1 million when I was 25, and I didn't. But I did make 3 by 26, and I remember very clearly that it was a short period of time, and I remember it was all checks. And I remember I just moved in with my then girlfriend, now wife, and we would every 2 or 3 times a week we would take the checks and we'd go to the ATM machine and we'd put it in and we would check the balance. And I remember when it hit so I went from like 80 grand in the bank to like $1 million in like a couple of months. And then I remember at the day it hit $1 million, remember we're in Toronto at Yonge and Eglinton, and the balance said $1 million, and we did a high five, cool. And then, but it felt awesome. I remember that moment. And then I remember a month later it hit 2, and then it was twice as awesome. And then I remember the next month it hit 3, and it felt the exact same as 2. There was this point of time where, you know, my as long as I realized, like, if I have a few years bankroll, life roll to be able to not sweat the bills for a year or 2 to breathe and think and make good decisions, like what's I forget the word for it, but essentially the marginal utility or the value of each next dollar is decreasing. And honestly, to me, helping people is just a byproduct of having fun. It's actually not about helping people at all. It's just helping people happens to be how I learn the most and how I have the most fun. So in the most selfish way possible, for me, helping people is actually a selfish act. And for whatever reason, I love being a big butterfly. So the most awesome is if you can help like have a conversation, and then a few years later, they met someone who they met someone who they met someone who showed someone something who had this huge impact, and they don't even know who you are. Sometimes that's like the most awesome feeling. I mean, what's the point? At the end of the day, we get born and we have, I don't know, 70 to 100 years to die slowly. And once the bills are met and you can already afford to eat some good food and travel a little bit and have a roof over your head and a few cool, comfortable, nice things, the game of just more dollars gets quite boring. And the best way, I love Sam Zell, rest in peace. He became a multi-billionaire, and he said he could never have become a billionaire if he didn't help thousands of people become millionaires, because him helping create millionaires is what created the billionaire. I don't think you could become successful without being a part of many other people's success. It really works together. So that's my long-winded answer for the helping people is a selfish act.
Winded is good because it's well said. It's helping people. You just very succinct. Well, the audience, somebody's listening going, man, I'd like to go from 80 to $1 million. What do you think? What tip could you give them, or what secret sauce that when you got that million, you'll high five? What do you think caused that bridge from 80 to $1 million?
It was in the wildfire and flood business. In this certain instance, it was the biggest wildfire in Canadian history. The fire was in Fort McMurray, Alberta. I was listening to the news, and I heard that insurance companies were preparing to spend $10 billion to rebuild Fort McMurray, and I had no idea what businesses I was going to go into. But I said, let's go to Fort McMurray, and there's going to be $10 billion going from the insurance company to the homeowners through trades, through stores, through repairing stuff, through construction. So I'm like, certainly I'll be able to find a way to create some value between the insurance companies and the homeowners. And to answer your question in particular, though, the way I was making money in my 20s was always, it sounds bad, but they were hit it and quit it businesses. So, for example, if you sold masks or sanitizers or ventilators or forehead thermometers during COVID, or for a little point of time, hot tubs or toilet paper, there was many different trending items. And I always was, I would jump into peak demand businesses, and people will often call you an opportunist. But what they don't realize is there's if people don't come in and solve the problem doesn't get solved. So whether that means selling air conditioners during a heat wave or repairing roofs after a hailstorm. So all of my businesses in my 20s, I set them up in a way where I could activate them only when there was a disaster. So instead of being a San Jose roofer or an Austin, Texas roofer, I was a hailstorm roofer. So I would monitor weather across the country, and wherever there was a remote hailstorm, I had rapidroofing.com. The website still exists. Actually, I think I only have the .ca now. Maybe the .com, I'm not sure. But basically, we would mobilize restoration. If there was a tornado, that's when you want to be there. If there was a flood, if there was a fire, if there was an earthquake, rates would go up 5, 6, 7x. And especially in a remote area, though, the one who could figure out the logistics, how do you get the hotel, the clean water, power, rental vehicles? And I wasn't afraid of I was all in. So some people would go into these disaster situations and end up broke, but it was kind of like, it was much better odds than going to the casino. It doesn't matter. I know many dry cleaners who made many millions of dollars after fires, because when there's smoke damage, every item of clothes has to be environmentally cleaned, not regular cleaning. So after a fire, for the first month, the duct cleaners are getting rich. If the power was shut off, for, let's say, if you were evacuated or if the power went out, everyone is going to be told by the city to keep their fridge door shut because the power is gone. Duct tape it, put it to the curb. FEMA's going to get that out of there. No one's going to argue that this fridge needs to be disposed of. So I remember this company in Canada called The Brick. They sold $100 million of fridges in 2 weeks after the fire because they just set up one landing page, fridge replacement services. Take a picture of your fridge, the serial number, we give you a credit. We bill your insurance direct. So I got to see this happen in a million different ways. So the way I did it was, it's not sustainable. I wasn't building companies. So long-term brand value didn't matter. Nobody reads Google reviews when there's 6 feet of water in the basement. If you say flood services and have a big phone number, you're going to get 1,000 calls a day when the water's in the basement. If you sell flood equipment, it's going to be 5x. So I basically was patient, and I was waiting for significant peak demand opportunities, and then I would move really, really fast. So, it takes creativity, and it took risk and a few other things. It didn't take genius, but it took the ability, and you have to go there. So whenever there's a huge situation, if you run towards the fire when other people are running away from the fire, there's always going to be a lot of opportunity where there's a lot of risk. So that's broadly how I kind of got the first few $1 million, was by this type of situation.
You just looked ahead and said, I'm at where you went for whatever, the place. You looked ahead and said, okay, and what can I find to help people? And that could happen anywhere in any industry. So anybody could do that.
Anything. Like if I call the trigger that I've conditioned myself to listen for is if I call, and it's always, you don't make money pretty much if you can't help people, because that's what people are giving you the money for help. And when I would if I call a restaurant and they have a 6-month waiting list, or if I want to take my children to some activity and there's a 2-month waiting list, then I go, whoa, is it just them? And then I call 3 other competitors. They all have 2-month waiting lists. I'm like, okay, let me think about this business. All of a sudden, my business brain is ringing like crazy, because if my dad always said, if there's with his, he's a CPA, and if his restaurant clients had like a 2-month waiting list, he'd say raise your prices until it's a 2-week waiting list. You want a waiting list, but 2 months is too long. It means you're too cheap. So whenever I hear of if I'm calling to get my deck pressure washed or get trees cleared or landscaping or pools, it doesn't really matter. Anytime there's a huge wait list for a thing that you're a consumer of, you should realize there's a wait list, meaning there's a bunch of people who want to trade money for the thing or for the experience. And then if you realize, I could provide this thing or this experience even better, even cheaper, even faster, just as good, you have a crazy opportunity.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's entrepreneurship right there, correct?
I'd say so.
What is that, just came to you, or is it something you studied, or you just have that brain?
Nah, I think it's I'm always on the fence. I believe entrepreneurship can be learned, but it will only be learned if it's first desired. And the desire definitely, my family was a lot of they were entrepreneurs and not entrepreneurial spaces. So very entrepreneurial lawyers, very entrepreneurial accountants. I didn't want to do the time for money thing, but I saw the desire to build a business, and like it was pretty aggressive how we were raised. It was basically, if you look at like my dad said, like in like the tax code, like the way that government things are written, employee-employer relationship is called a master-servant relationship. When you go way back, that's how this thing was defined. And it was basically like, if you want to be able to pick your kids up from school and travel and have freedom, you kind of have to be the guy who owns the thing. So it was very frowned upon to get a job. It wasn't like there was an element of like, it was like, do whatever you want, be happy, but I suggest you own a business. So the desire came from that. My dad always I was always very plugged into his clients' lives and who was doing good and who wasn't, and all the people who had the cool stuff that were doing fun things owned businesses. And I was telling you before the call, some people like to paint and do music and do golf, and I really love to create brands and start businesses. And I find it's the coolest way to when you're in school as a kid, you got built-in friendship, you got built-in activities. When you're an adult, you're the teacher, the principal, the superintendent, and the student, and it's all at the same time. And it's very stressful to wear all those hats at the same time. Yeah. And I just it's annoying. It's just it came from the consumer brain. I usually only start a business if I would first prefer to just be a customer. But if I can't be a customer, and neither can all these other people because this thing is full, then, well, we got to start some stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a slow burn, but also in my 20s, I probably went to like 50 or 60 countries. So I got to see a ton of different cultures. Like I remember in Japan seeing like pizza in a cone. I'm like, why don't we have that in America? This is genius. So when you would travel, you just kind of see things that don't exist. And then your brain's like, why don't we have that here? Why don't we have that there?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know where it came from, but I'm glad it's there.
No, I am too, because I'm learning a lot. Have any of your businesses, I don't like the word fail, but not succeeded to your desire?
Yeah, a lot of them. So, well, my company was called the Rapid Group. So as an overarching business, it was successful, but that was the mother company that would do all these disasters. So I've always been very comfortable it's like gambling, but with way better odds in the casino is gambling on business. And way better odds than picking big public companies is picking doing small things because you get to own 100% of the company. 100% of $1 million is $1 million. It's hard to get a meaningful percentage of a large company.
Yeah.
And like, what was the exact question? What failed? I'll tell you
I
which
never
ones
failed,
failed.
but not successful. I don't like fail.
Yeah,
You never fail.
Carolina hurricane. There was many times there was a fire or a flood where I got in the game. I set up the website, the domain, the logistics, the operations, and then realized, you know what? This is actually not a great opportunity. Whether it's because we were in Florida and all of the insurance companies are failing, like going out of business,
Yep.
and it's like, we can't really do all these jobs because the homeowners don't have the money and the insurance companies likely won't pay us. So the risk is too high. It doesn't make sense to play this game. So, we're out a few $1,000s on the brand and the website and this and that. So we closed up. Carolina hurricanes, same. So there's been various like disasters where only once, if you're not first, or like if you don't have a fast mover advantage, then the opportunity's gone. So you got to set up fast and then see if the opportunity's there. So yeah, Carolina hurricanes, various fires in British Columbia, they were just tiny markets where people had bad insurance policies, or they had the mindset of, I can clean my house myself. So there was a lot of those. And then there was a lot of businesses that I started that just didn't make sense to run. So like I started fasttire.ca. It was a beautiful website though. I started it during COVID. I was in Canada. Everybody was locked at home, but winter was coming or going and everybody had to change their tires. So I remember looking on Craigslist and mobile, like to go to the tire shop, let's say is like $60, but to get the guy to come to you is like $250. So I was like, interesting. People aren't leaving their home. They still need to change their tires. I noticed there's a huge arbitrage opportunity. The Google guy usually charges double what the Craigslist guy charges, but it's the same guys doing the work. So I always figured, let me be the Google guy who hires the Craigslist guy. So I went on Craigslist and everybody was $50, $60 to change a tire. If I could run Google ads and Facebook ads, I could charge $200 for the set of tires. So I set up fasttire.ca, ran some ads, did like a couple quick jobs. I'm like, this is an annoying business. This is like, I just needed the website to exist. I had to make it real. And then I just realized like the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So like when COVID started, I started multiple COVID businesses. One of them, so Fast Tire failed, but EnviroCleanse.ca succeeded massively. Massive for the effort that was put in. So it cost me $9 for the domain, $10 for the domain. I already had hosting, and I set up a COVID cleaning company. With years of restoration, I know how to do environmental cleaning protocols as well as anybody. So I basically offered COVID grade janitorial services. I called a bunch of good cleaning companies. They were 25 or 50 cents a square foot. I just doubled their rate, and they were doing really sophisticated cleaning protocols. I just doubled their square foot rate. I ran Google ads. In about 2 weeks, we sold about 40 or 50K worth of monthly cleaning contracts. And only about 2 months ago, the final one ended. So the first year was it was a slow death. But after the first month, we stopped advertising because everybody signed their deals. But at the same time, I was offering, for the first month, I was offering truck cleaning for freight for fleets. That was a failure. Residential was a failure, but cleaning businesses daily was a hit. So that ended up doing about 600K, exactly 50% profit, because we were just taking the money and giving half to the cleaning company. So like often when these situations would occur, and I would start 5 things, 4 would fail or not be worthy of pursuing, and the best one would continue, or none of them. So the part of the risk, it doesn't take long to sit at a blackjack table and realize that the odds are very bad. Yeah. But it's also it doesn't take long to sit down in a disaster table. Like if I was a younger self and I didn't have what I had going on now, when everybody was stuck at Burning Man last week, I desperately wanted to start a helicopter evacuation business that week. So I'm
Wow.
like, let me just get helicopters. There's a lot of wealthy people who don't have helicopters and they haven't thought of it yet. A lot of it's also the thought. So I'm like, why don't I just get helicopters? I'll run Facebook and Instagram ads. Everybody clearly they're posting. They have internet. They're charging their phones, and they don't need to get that far to get out of the mud. So I'm like, why don't I have shuttles and helicopters, and we'll go get people. We'll pick them up in the helicopter, and then the more challenging, the better. So you couldn't land. Do we bring the bucket down and do we do it like hurricane styles? How much can I charge per person? 20 G's? I don't know. A lot. So I was thinking, like, would we have failed? What's failed? Put up a website and ran $1,000 worth of ads. But like, $10,000 Burning Man evacuation services, record like a 30-second video, partner up with 5 or 6 helicopter companies in the area. If they're available, there's a lot of guys who do wildfire patrol that would be free. So like that would be an example. I'm like, here's thousands of eclectic entrepreneurs that are stranded. Let's get them out of the mud. So maybe that would fail too. But that's the kind of like thing.
How you think? Well, the lesson is, I'm glad you talked about all that. Is you've failed as much as you've won more, but failed more than you've won. But you're successful right now. You're not homeless and broke.
Not
because people are afraid to start this stuff, but you're doing it all the time, and you just move on. You fail, so you just go, okay, what's the next one? You don't even think about your past.
I only do it from the perspective of everything I fail, I do a post mission debrief. What went wrong? Did I fail because of my execution or because of the opportunity didn't exist the way I wanted it to? Or because and that's it. Often it's the opportunity just wasn't that awesome.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, so until you kind of get in the game and you test it, but some of the more money and experience you have, the bigger and faster you can play the game. But there's infinity of these things that cost $0. So, if I sell air purifiers now, what's a better question? How do I sell 10,000 air purifiers this year? Or how do I sell 10,000 air purifiers this year with a 60 margin and a $0 marketing budget? And I do that. So like me and my wife were at the little community fair here, and they asked her if she would help with face painting. So she said, sure. And they showed her she's never was a painter or a face painter. Like, here's how you paint a face. So the lineup was like 100 kids deep, and it's like $10 for tiny thing, 15 or 25 for the full face. And the $10 one is like 2 minutes. The $25 one's like 3 minutes. If you have the little glitters and the stickers. So then I was like, wait, what about face tattoos? We can just apply them in 3 seconds. They still pay $25. We can get the tattoos for 60 cents, apply them in 10 seconds. So like literally face painting at farmers markets. If a kid sees another kid with a painted face, that parent is buying that kid face painting immediately.
Yeah.
Either you want to be with this crying kid or do you want to give $20 for a painted face? So we're like, oh my God, you see this cute little booth with a few high school girls? This booth produced $6,000 this afternoon, and their only cost was 3 girls minimum wage and some paint. So there's these things are everywhere. It costs nothing to do face painting. All you got to do is call some markets, some fairs, Craigslist post, a one-pager website doing kids. You could literally contact other companies who do kids' birthdays and fairs and schools and festivals and churches and say, hey, we're going to come. We won't charge you anything for our booth. We'll be a value-added service provider. We'll give 10% of our take to either the event or the charity. You got prime real estate, and now you paint faces. So like these things are everywhere. You don't need to do it it's one of the most scalable businesses of all time. There's a guy in town here named Aaron. He's been doing kayak and paddleboard tours for like 10 plus years. No website. He makes 10K profit per weekend and per week. 6 people on a paddleboard, $50 a person. They go to see the bats in the evening. So it's $300 per paddleboard per hour. He's got 2 employees. And then he's been using that profit for the last 10 years to buy homes in Austin and put them on Airbnb.
Oh my God.
Real estate's been doing so. He owns like dozens of homes, like mortgage free. He now is like a real estate tycoon, and you just see him rolling around in his scooter with no helmet and his little boards. And all it was is kayak and paddleboard, like tourism. Go where people are willing to spend money. Birthdays, fairs, festivals, travels, hot weather, cold weather, disaster. You know, how many hustlers have like, it's like there's like those basic ideas. There's like lemonade stand. Guys, everybody thought of that. Selling cold water on the street in Las Vegas, that's like one step up. But like take it up a couple notches from there. Can you rent air conditioners when there's a heat wave? Can you rent space heaters when there's an ice storm? I met 19-year-old kids in my neighborhood when there was an ice storm in Austin in February and all the trees came down. This 20-year-old kid made $12,000 on a weekend doing tree cleanup. He rented a U-Haul trailer. He put up a Craigslist post. He hired 2 friends for $20 an hour and he hauled brush. So it's like, once again, it's like, there's a demand. The margins are crazy. Let's go. So, I just think if you do a business that costs almost nothing to start, but if there's anything I could ever get through to people, and it's hard to do it on mass scale. I do it all the time with people one-on-one, is show them a business that can make 7 figures that costs $0 to start, that you could start tomorrow with a Craigslist post, a next door post. There's classifieds. So yeah, that's the thing that people need more of, man.
Secret sauce. Well, you mentioned it. We're running out of time, and we got to talk about Jasper.
Let's do it.
What do you call them? Air humidifier?
No, they're purifiers. They clean
air. Yeah, air purifier. Let's talk about that. Why you started and what it does.
Okay. I started it because I was in Fort McMurray during that large wildfire, and biggest fire in Canadian history. We would go out there and we would clean these smoke damaged homes. So it wasn't like the homes were burnt to the ground, but they were massively contaminated with smoke. So we had to throw out carpets, change insulation, bedding, furniture, complete detox of the home. Then I started getting calls a week later. This one family in particular, the baby was in the hospital. What do you mean the baby's in the hospital? We go to the house, we test the air. That house was really contaminated again. I'm like, this makes no sense. We tested your air last week. It was fine. Here's the lab data. Well, after a big fire, the air can be contaminated for months. It's in the soil, it's in the water, it's in the valley. It doesn't just leave. So what happened was I called the insurance company. I said, hey, your customer's house is toxic again. They can't live there. And it was basically so sad, too bad. Like, we're sending you a check for your job. They've already signed off when they got back in the home. Like, we're done here. I'm like, shit, this is a big problem because insurance isn't going to help them. We didn't set our rates. This is the craziest. Insurance pays you on like a square footage basis. So we were making 60, 70,000 a house and our cost was about 10,000 and the jobs only took 4 or 5 days. So I'm like, here I was 26. I was getting rich quick in an unexpected way. It was crazy. We don't set our rates. So I'm like, this isn't real life. And the rates that were set was because there was no protocols for cleaning smoke damaged houses. So the price per square foot they were paying us was the same as if there was a fire in your kitchen or in your dryer, as if like your house was black. So we were getting paid like $7 a square foot to clean. Jeez. But we only needed to vacuum it or wipe it once, not 40 times. So it was right place, right time. And the more remote, the more they pay. So I'm like, this doesn't feel good to me that this family now can't move home. Insurance is shit out of luck. And we profited? This is weird. We can't do this. So I was like, hey, let's just try leaving 3 of our huge commercial air cleaning machines there and see how it goes. So we waited a few hours. We tested the air. The air was great again because we had like large air cleaning machines. So I'm like, you know what? Those machines cost us like $1,500 each. And we needed them bad for more jobs. Any equipment we had was working for us. But I'm like, let's just leave it there. And when it all dissipates in 2 weeks or 2 months, we'll take it back. And then after like a few weeks, I'm like, it would be cheaper for me to just buy them like 5 Dysons or Honeywell, Molecule, Levoit, Blue Air. Let me go to Best Buy or Home Depot or Lowe's, buy a bunch of them and just give them, let them keep them. So we did that. Baby was sick. Air got bad again. So like the analogy and I realized like, damn, these little air purifiers aren't doing anything. So we would test the air. They would clean the air by like 3% instead of like 90%. So the analogy that hit home for me was most air purifiers are like trying to heat a bathtub with a kettle.
Oh, jeez.
Kettles heat water, but they don't heat bathtubs. Just like my hot water tank heats my shower. If I connect my hot water tank to this thing, it's not going to do anything. Yeah. So I was like, or your golf cart can't pull your boat, but like a 1986 beater pickup truck can. It doesn't have to be new or fancy. It doesn't even need seats in it, but it needs a bigger engine. So I realized, and then I didn't live on the West Coast back then, but the people living there were like, hey, there's like 40, 50 days per year where there's elevated smoke. Like all summer long, we could be living in a smoky situation. I'm like, whoa, this is a problem, guys. So after that wildfire, I kind of hung up my disaster hat in 2017, more or less. And I'm like, we need a bigger, better air purifier that can actually handle, like there wasn't this much the wildfires are on a massive rise. There's way more fires, way more smoke. The cause doesn't matter. What matters is there's more smoke in the air every year and people can't breathe, and it's bad for asthma. It's bad for elderly. It's bad for children. It's bad for everything. It's not just the smoke. When homes burn, it's every chemical in that house, every piece of plastic in that house, the car, the gas. It's not regular. It's not a campfire anymore. It's a toxic, smoky soup. So we basically realized this problem. So I went to Asia actually to train Muay Thai in Thailand. But I went to Hong Kong and Malaysia, Bangkok, Singapore, and I saw how bad the air quality was, but how good the air purifiers were. So you would go to a mall in Asia and like they have air purifier stores, full stores. If you would go to a bank, a restaurant, you could expect there to be large air purifiers everywhere, because the same way in America, we know that we filter water. We don't just drink from the stream or from the pond. You could go to a pond, fill your glass, it looks clean, but you don't drink that water because it's going to make you sick. We haven't queued into that yet for air, at least not societally. But I got the intel from my mold and fire stuff, so I realized air is bad, solution is worse. We need something larger. So I tried to make a machine that connects to the furnace, a whole home unit, and it wasn't the silver bullet I wanted it to be. It wasn't working when the furnace was on or off. Some people have baseboard heaters or heat pumps. So it wasn't that effective. So I found the best purifiers I could. I knew it needs to vent up. It needs to be metal. So it just kind of dawned on me back in 2017. I'm like, I need something that's pretty like a Dyson, quiet like a Tesla, but powerful like these industrial air scrubbers that we use. So I basically knew it needed to be metal, not plastic. It had to be large. It had to be quiet. It had to be beautiful, because if it wasn't beautiful, people are going to unplug it and they're going to put it in their closet and they're never going to use it again. People care about health, but not that much. Not enough to inconvenience. If you're fixing air pollution, but you're creating noise pollution, you're not really solving the problem. So I kind of I was on this like few-year journey to find and create the best air purifier I could, specifically to handle toxic wildfire smoke. And then COVID happened, and a friend of mine was like, dude, you got to launch today. This was May 22, 2020. We weren't going to launch until wildfire season. But he said, they just mandated every dentist in Ontario needs an air purifier in every dental room. And if they have no air purifier, they need to wait about 2 hours between patients. And the more airflow the air purifier could produce, the less time between patients. So if they went to buy a Dyson or a Honeywell, they'd still be at 45 minutes between patients. If they bought a Jasper, they'd be at 8 minutes between patients.
Wow.
The average dental office is doing $300 an hour. So this thing was going to pay for itself in 2 days.
Quickly.
So we did almost $1 million in sales in our first week. And the crazy thing is, if I had 10 million of inventory, I would have sold all of it. I had to say no to orders for $3 million from dental chains because I wasn't going to lie and say I'd have it in 2 weeks. Our competitors did lie. They said it's going to be 2 weeks. I'm like, it's COVID. It might be 2 weeks. It might be 2 months. I don't know. But I'm not going to lie to you. Maybe a bad business decision. I don't care. It wasn't the right way to start a business. I had to say I don't know. But we sold everything we had. We took pre-orders, and for that next year and a half, we were in the COVID business, selling to dentists, doctors, schools, gyms. We were helping businesses get back to business safely, because it was beautiful and it was quiet and it was pretty and had the air sensor and the real-time indicator. The dental offices were raving to their clients about it. The number one feedback we got was, can you give us more signage to tell our patients and staff how clean the air is here? So we're like, yes. They would rave about it to substantiate why you should come back to the dentist. Well, what happened is the patients who have allergies, who have asthma, started to say, do they sell these things for the home? I don't know. Ask Jasper. So then we started to get leads, and we had no e-commerce. Like, we had a lead form. So I would talk to every single customer, business or consumer. What's up? What's your problem? And because I was in air quality testing and consulting and restoration for years, I was like perfectly equipped to help them navigate their situation. What basically happened was we were in the COVID business without intending to be, but with businesses, it was like, yeah, my patients feel safe. My staff feels safe. With the homeowner, it was my asthmatic child who was having an asthma attack every night. Now they're not. My seasonal allergies aren't here. The smoke isn't bothering me. My dog that sleeps in my bed that would give me the sniffles, no more sniffles. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about.
Nice.
So, was it about helping people? No, it was about feeling good about what I did. And so we lowered our price from $19.99 to $13.99. We still do all kinds of discounts and we work with all kinds of affiliates, but long story short, I went from wildfire restoration to a wildfire air purifier to a COVID medical B2B air purifier to people wanting what the medical industry want, but for their home. And now we went from 99% B2B to 99% homeowners. And it's awesome. And we have a 30-day money back guarantee. So if it's not like, I call it the life-changing guarantee. So if somebody buys it and they're not sleeping if it's not a no-brainer, then we prepay the shipping, we take it back. Everything is a lifetime warranty. I send out emails. Our post-purchase email says, like, after a few months, like, are you still using your Jasper? If the answer is no, it's like, let's find out why. If not, let me buy it back off of you for a lower price, and we'll donate it to a daycare or a shelter or something. Because what breaks my heart is this air cleaning machine is collecting dust instead of cleaning dust. This is not cool. So it was restoration service guy, and then I really enjoyed the challenge of creating hardware, creating products, and being a non-expert and not being in the proverbial box that was the industry allowed me to create something simple and beautiful. And I almost didn't launch the product. But I figured, you know what? My life was changed from clean air. My grandparents, I had so many massive wins in my personal life that if you eat healthy food versus bad food, if you eat bad food, you feel bad. The feedback loop is immediate with fried food and stuff. We still do it anyway because it tastes good. With water, it's a bit of a slower feedback loop. With air, same thing. If you have clean air and then you lose that clean air, it's very obvious. But our human body's so good at adapting that people don't realize how bad the air is that they're breathing. So my mission now is to be 50% great products and 50% education, all about air awareness, whether it's the dog, the cat, the mold, any of that stuff. And our next product coming out in January is actually an upgraded furnace filter. So most furnace filters haven't been innovated in 2 decades. So we're coming out with a new furnace filter that can help with smoke, pollen, allergies, mold, odor control, just a badass home furnace for your existing HVAC system. I'm very excited about that. So I just want to create cool products that look good. And to close that loop on that thought was when I was going to not finish I'm like, I don't know if I want to start a company. I'm enjoying traveling and hanging out with my new wife, and my lifestyle is good right now. I don't feel the motivation to start a company right now, but I'm like, but I do want this awesome air purifier. So I'm like, even if I just buy 50 and I gift them, or I sell them to family and friends, and I'll put a few in my house. So I had 50 in my garage, and I was like, maybe I'll launch. And then COVID was, it jolted
Yeah.
that disaster guy in me. It woke up the entrepreneur inside of me. And then one success story at a time. And our churn rate, we have, out of almost 2,500 units sold, we have less than 5 returns. Our churn rate is less than 2%. Nobody cancels the subscription. So like, it's working great. So now it's time to scale this thing. We've run no ads in 3 years. So now it's time to, we're on our 5th version of the product. Nobody knows that, but we keep it because the lifetime warranty. We have to make it bulletproof because we don't want it to break. So the ball's in our court to make it excellent, or it's going to be very expensive. So yeah, that's how we started it. Wildfires to COVID air stuff to now we're a homeowner, consumer, e-commerce business. And I don't know how I got here, and we'll see what happens next.
Well, the audience and listeners don't get an idea that this can be done by anybody. They could be this successful. We're running out of time. I want to thank you for being on. I'm getting some Jaspers. My wife has allergies really bad. She actually takes expensive medicine, which will go away with the Jasper. So if you're on allergies, he's told me that helps that, because that's your area. It's coming from the dog and the bad air. Thank you for being on. I'd love to have you come back. I think there's a lot more we could talk about. Let's leave with this. What could you leave my audience? You've given some great tips. What's a great tip for the audience for their life, their business journey that you can help them with?
I'll give 2. One is what I will do. We don't normally do promotional stuff like this, but we might as well here. I'll send you a code after the episode. I'll make the code. I'm sure you'll do an intro or something after. So I'll get you a code after, just for your audience, with a very substantial discount. If anybody wants Jaspers, then I'll give a very aggressive discount, because that's what I like to do. Because we're not wasting a lot of money on Facebook and Google and advertising, that allows us to take our advertising budget and give it back to the consumer and make the product affordable. So we'll do that after.
Awesome.
But in terms of tip stuff, I would just say, basically every business I started, for the most part, was able to start in one day. And there are a lot of incredible businesses, I mean, like that you could start off of a Craigslist post or a Nextdoor post. So if you haven't started a business, and whether you have a job or not, go on the services section of Craigslist and Nextdoor and see what people are asking for on Nextdoor. See what people are posting service-wise. See what people are raving about it. And like, don't be afraid to, if you're considering starting a business, whether it's any duct cleaning or face painting, all you got to do is Google face painting your city, call the top 5 companies, ask how much they I love corporate espionage. Be a fake consumer. Don't feel scared to call 3 companies, have them come to your house, give you a quote, pressure wash your deck, $1,500. Whoa. How long does it take? 2 hours? How much is the pressure washer? $300? Sounds like a good little business. So like, don't worry so much about the scaled out version of it. Like, if you could create, like, I like the easiest businesses, something between that 200 and 5,000, 200,000 to 500,000, 1 employee, great profit. Don't even think beyond that thing. Just future you is going to make future decisions anyway. So, and like, don't think you're going to be stuck in the grind forever. You can always hire someone to do the grindy part. So just like, look around at businesses that aren't that, they don't require offices. They don't require buildings. They don't require huge teams. There's so many little services that you could be doing that have great pool maintenance, pool cleaning, grass cutting. All of these are large areas. And train your brain that if you see a lot of demand and you think you could do it better, and don't worry about insurance on day one. You got nothing to lose anyway. Go get your first 5 customers, then worry about bank accounts and incorporation and insurance don't for your first thing, just sell 5 jobs. Go on, use Craigslist, use Nextdoor, use free face. Every town you type in that city side jobs, that city jobs, your city, you know, gigs, and there's a huge economy for people. Charge $100 to do dump runs. Like, just like get in the game and then figure it all out.